All right. Hey, everybody. This is Kai Deering. And today, I can't believe it. It's Wednesday, the 11th, right before Valentine's Day. Thus the hearts and the red shirt, right? But this is what we do on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and all time zones in between. I like to bring to you, I've been in business for over 20 years between what I do now, what I did before. And I just like to bring to you, my network and folks that have got some great tips and tricks and hacks and things to help the entrepreneur really kind of go to the next level. And so I'm excited to bring to you today just a woman I have mad respect for. She has a coaching business. She's been doing it forever. And I just love the fact that she has just come from Overwhelm to be able to coach people how to get through that. And I think there's just a lot of people that call themselves a coach, but there's very few that can do this full time and really do it successfully. And she's one of those folks. So please help me welcome to the virtual stage with me, Jennifer Sherwood. How are you, my dear?
Hey, I'm great. Oh my gosh, Kai, what a beautiful welcome. Thank you so much. It is so exciting and fun. I'm already like giddy. It's going to be fun to be here with you. Thank you.
Well, we're kind of new friends. And in fact,
Yep.
we haven't even met outside of Zoom or electronics. And I feel like I already know you because you're
Yes.
so authentic and
Oh.
just so transparent. And I think that's really endearing and super important when you're coaching other people. You're coaching them from a place of you've been there and done that. And I love asking people how they got started in their entrepreneurial venture because most of us did the corporate thing and then we kicked that to the curb and
Yep.
we did something different. And just to help people that maybe are looking to transition, what was that day of disgust for you? What did that look like for you? And how'd you do it?
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is so fun. The day of disgust. I always think of it of like it more like when I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's my day of disgust. So, okay, let me share with you in a nutshell because I don't want to take everyone's entire day. So, really what happened for me was I had kids. And when I had my kids, it kicked up this perfectionist dictator in me that I had no idea was sort of lurking in the shadows. She just woke up and was like, okay, we had a baby and now everything has to be a certain way. And like, just dictator is like the perfect word because she was brutal. And I say she like it wasn't me doing this to myself, but it really felt like there was this taskmaster inside of me. And so everything had to be perfect. And let me be clear, like I was not the straight A student. I don't have the dust-free house. I'm not what I think of as a perfectionist. So I've learned to sort of define it differently. Whereas it's this voice, this sort of unrelenting voice that just beats the heck out of you all the time. So it was how I was parenting. It was, am I showing up enough in my career? Am I showing up enough at home? Which is no, obviously, right? I couldn't do anything well enough. What did my house look like? What did my relationships look like? Nothing I did was good enough in literally any arena. And you talk about defeating and exhausting. I'm going to guess by the time I got to the day of disgust, my oldest was, early elementary school. So this relentless voice went on for years. And at work, I was, before I was a coach, I was a pediatric audiologist, and audiology is hearing science. So I was the person who would test babies and kids for hearing loss and help them move through that process. But when I was working for the state of California, so I was a consultant at the Department of Healthcare Services. So I had a big job that I was carrying and caring for now two little girls, and often suffered from what's called imposter syndrome. And I don't know if people watching know that, but essentially imposter syndrome is thinking that someday somebody's going to figure out that you're not qualified or that you're not good enough, that somehow you just ended up in this position, which was total madness. Kai, I have a master's degree in audiology. And before I went to the state, I ran the clinic at Lucille Packard Children's Hospital at Stanford. So more than qualified for my job, but had this wrestle with, I'm not qualified, somebody's going to figure it out. Like every facet in my life, I was getting beat up on. And then I really just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I decided I did not want to live like that anymore. I mean, when I look back at my life at the time, I have two healthy, beautiful kids, and my husband is my best friend. So on paper, this should have been a great time in my life. And instead of enjoying it, I was just beating the crap out of myself. So I'd had enough. I'd had enough of that. I'd had enough of, I was feeling a little burnt out in my career, and all of that sort of collided at the same time. But what I loved about my career at the time was I got to go around the country and do public speaking on a program that I worked on. I loved that. There was a part of my job where I got to teach. I loved that. And so I just started looking for what else could I do, because audiology is such a narrow field. I was a little tunnel visioned about what else I could possibly do. So that collided with my sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I started hearing about coaching, and I thought that might be something where I could bring my skills to. And so I should hire someone to see what that's like. Do you see this here? I'm ready for change and I'm ready for career change. Anyway, hired a coach, and she totally rocked my world in such a way that I decided this is what I want to do for other women. And so I quit a 20 plus year career in audiology and took a huge leap of faith into coaching. And I love it. I love what I do so much. I love my clients and the women I get to meet, like you. And that's where I am today. I just love what I've created.
And I think some people love what they do, which is great, but this is not a dress rehearsal. So if you don't love what you do, you're in charge of that,
Yes.
change it. And so I'm proud of women like you that, listen to that voice and didn't just ignore it and stuff it.
Yeah.
And just suck it up and keep going, because that's no good for you or anybody else. And now you're able to use that gift to help others, which I think is great. And your biggest gift really is just how authentic you are. If you follow her on Facebook, you'll see she talks about the tough stuff, and I appreciate that. There's no sugarcoating there. But fast forward, right? Your girls now, oh my gosh, you got 2 girls that are teenage girls in a pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Crazy times. And you are pretty much a sucker for allowing them to talk you into a puppy now too. So now you got a dog, a puppy, right? And then to top it all off, I asked you if it's okay if we talked about this.
Yep.
You have a husband who survived cancer during all of this.
Yeah.
So you talk about being stressed out and overwhelmed in corporate. I can't imagine how you balance everything, how that piece of that works for you, because my goodness, that is a lot on your plate.
Yeah. It's funny when you say that. We are thankfully on the other side of it. And I told Kai, there's nothing off limits. And thank you for just mentioning that I'm authentic, because I just think it's really important to just be real. Because if I came on here and I said, oh, you just do this and this, and then everything will be great, I would be doing a disservice. So yeah, I'm pretty upfront. I'm pretty vulnerable. My husband was diagnosed with cancer in June. So literally in the middle of all of this, it happens. We were very fortunate. His cancer was very treatable and has a great survival rate. We're on the other side of all the treatments now. But the way I'm talking to Kai right now, and she can verify this because we were friends during this time, is pretty much how I showed up then. And I really credit, and I'm so thankful that I did all this work before this happened, because if he had gotten sick 10 years ago, 8 years ago, I would have been a mess. I come from this line of worriers. And so I would have been sitting in worry and fear. And instead, I use the tools that I work on with clients. It's really important to me to walk my talk. And so I really practiced mindfulness, not allowing myself to spin out in what could happen, what might happen. Don't get me wrong. Of course, my brain went there. I just didn't, park the trailer there. And so bringing myself back to the moment, I did a lot of that. And the one thing that was huge, particularly in the cancer treatment, was letting people help me, which I know, look, ladies, I know we want to do it all ourselves, and that is to our detriment so many times. And so really letting friends help us, that was huge. And then the other piece, and this is for the whole pandemic too, this isn't just this one time, but also really good communication. Like right at the beginning of the venture into this diagnosis and into this treatment, I just said to my husband, there is no conversation that's off limits. We can talk about anything. I needed him to know that he had a safe place to land Whereas in the past, our communication looked much more like I would walk, if I had something to say, I would walk in a room and I would like throw a grenade and then I would run because I was terrified to speak up and hold the conversations. And so it just felt really good, even though I was scared, to be able to say, you know, we're in this together and I am here for you. And so the puppy, funny enough, like we didn't exactly jump on the COVID bandwagon of getting a pet, although I guess we did. But part of it was, so my girls are 17 and almost 21 now. So we are in it. My youngest was turning 17, like just 2 weeks after her dad's diagnosis. It was really rough timing and in a pandemic. And so the puppy was her birthday present. We said we can get a pet. And so it was really fun. It was fun to be able to do that with them and detract from what he was going through. And so you're asking how I got through all of that. It was all of this, like really counting my blessings, being grateful for where I was at on the days where, and look, when it's really hard times, you can't always find something to be grateful for. So I was practicing just what can I appreciate today? And on the days when I couldn't appreciate anything, I wasn't beating myself up for that. Oh, this is sort of going back to your initial question of how did I get here? All the work I did to get to where I am today had everything to do with stopping that inner perfectionist dictator, like to really tone down how much she beat up on me was absolutely critical for how I got here today. I don't believe that we can ever eliminate our inner critics, but boy, we can really slow them down and find compassion and love for ourselves. That was key into how I got here. That was a very long-winded answer.
No, I loved it. I mean, and there is some challenging times for sure, you
Yeah.
know, from
For everybody right
yeah.
now. I mean, I'm not unique in this. Everybody, maybe you don't have a cancer diagnosis, but this pandemic, everybody is struggling.
Yeah. And so to just show people how they can get through the other side of that and you walk your walk and talk your talk, I think is huge for people. And so I love that. And I know, ironically, like we were talking before the interview, just about how your audiologist background, right? Because that's just really it's interesting to me because I have a little bit of a science background too. How did you bring that forward? Because I know you said that's a big part of how you do your practice and how you're able to help people bridge, like why did that help your coaching career and how did that meld together for you?
It's so funny. I hadn't thought about this when we were talking. It just occurred to me now. When I first decided to make the leap into coaching, I wanted to leave that whole other part of me behind. I really wanted this separation from I was this person and I am this person, which is ridiculous because we are the sum of all parts of us, of all of our experience. And so I sort of sat in that world for a little while of like, nope, that's my old me. But then I realized that a huge part of why I got into audiology is because I am naturally someone who wants to serve other people. And so going into a profession like that, which I was extremely passionate about at the time and loved my career for a long time, being able to help kids, pediatrics was my heart. Being able to help kids was huge. Being able to help families through times of, if you find out your child has a hearing loss and this isn't something in your world, it turns your world upside down. So to be able to be there to help support families, to help them find the right services, in a way is similar to what I'm doing now. And then when I went to the state, I worked on a program that screened babies for hearing loss in the hospital. So like catching hearing loss as soon as we could to get services started. And part of my role there was once those kids were diagnosed, I worked also, I sort of had multiple roles there on a program that helped low income kids to get services. And so connecting families with services was a huge passion of mine because there's a lot of bureaucracy in the government and a lot of red tape. And I was in a role at times where I could cut through it and just help people. And that felt really good. When I could plug a family in where they needed to be, it was amazing. And that feels, as I'm saying this out loud, a lot like what I'm doing now. I'm helping women to plug in to a different way of being, of living, of thinking about themselves that is a relief. So many of us just live under, we don't really think about it. We're just doing our day to day. Like we were talking about this earlier, Kai, off air, about when you just do your own thing. And so many women are just plugging along, not even realizing it can be different. When I was in the height of this craziness, I didn't see how life could be any different. I just thought it was different for other people. So to bring this full circle, I kind of feel like now where I could help families get stuff they didn't know about before, I can help women live their life in a way that they didn't think was possible for them. I think we see people and we think they can have it and we can't, but you can.
It's a choice for
Yeah.
sure. So, you make it sound so easy. I just chose, I'm a coach and
Yeah,
now it's great. But I know entrepreneurship is messy.
Yeah.
So, there's never a straight line to where you want to be. You have a vision of what it's going to look like, but then, you zig and zag and everything kind of, turns out the way it turns out. So talk about, to help other women that maybe are looking to make this leap of faith and have families and obligations and careers and things like that. What is one of the biggest mistakes that you made in your business that could help shave off some learning curves? So this is what this is about, hacks and tips and tricks. What would be one thing that you would say that could help somebody who's taking that leap of faith? What was the biggest mistake you made maybe early on or in the middle that can help somebody else?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm going to have to say letting fear get in the way. And, nobody's perfect. There's still plenty of things that I'm sort of slowly walking towards because I have some fear. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, particularly in a service industry, like, I am selling myself, if you think about it, right? I don't have a product what I'm selling is I am my brand. And so I didn't have to get vulnerable, but for me, that was the way to be authentic. And that's really important to me. That's one of my core values. So it's scary to stand up in front of the world and say, this is who I am. This is what happened to me. This is what I do. Any entrepreneur in any arena, you're standing up and saying, trust me, listen to me, trust me enough to buy a service or purchase a product. So I think there's an element of vulnerability for any entrepreneur. And I fought the things that I was scared of, which we all do. It makes sense. I just had to work through those fears, but that's probably my biggest tip. And it's funny, now it's going to be my tip to myself. Stop hiding from things that feel scary and just do them. And this is what I tell coaching clients all the time too, and this is relevant for personal life and business, people are going to judge you. You cannot do anything to keep the haters from hating. People will judge you. So just get over that. They're going to judge you. Just do your thing. You're not for everybody. And so, if you keep hiding because you're afraid someone's going to judge you about how you're talking about your product or service, or for even attempting to go do something different, you're never going to go where you want to go. So that's probably the biggest thing, Kai. Does that resonate for you?
Totally. I mean, here's what's funny about that is, I had a lot of haters when I first made, my entrepreneurial jump, and some of them were close to you. So my mom, why would you? Because I told you I had a good paying career, and that first
Right.
job was 100% commission job, and then she'd be like, why do you want to risk this great, safe, secure, whatever? And if they don't have what you want, I mean, no offense to my mom, I loved her dearly, but she wasn't the best with her finances, and if she was living in a mobile home park, working at Starbucks at her golden years, then I loved her, don't get me wrong, she's my best friend. I may not want to take career advice from somebody who doesn't have what I want. Would you agree? I mean,
oh my gosh, that I think is such a salient point. If you're going into business, the people around you may not be the support system you need. And Kai and I met through a networking group, and the 2019 in particular, I started really doing more networking because a friend of mine who is an entrepreneur said to me, so do you have a lot of entrepreneurial friends? She and I are on different parts of the country, so we couldn't use each other in that way, but I didn't. And I realized I wanted to be around people who had this mindset, right? My mom, I'm the same way, Kai. I left a government job with a pension. You talk about security. What's wrong with me is probably what my family was thinking. they're not the ones I should be talking to when I'm making a decision about a business, or even within my business. Just having other entrepreneurs who have the same mindset, super, super important, because yeah, your family, probably your circle of friends, they're not going to be the ones who understand you and can support what you're doing.
Which is why I like doing these little interviews, because I like interviewing everyday people that made a break, did something different, did something great, dared to do something outside of the box. And I just, after all of these interviews, the themes kind of are the same, right? And hopefully that these will allow somebody else to make a decision to live their truth and go do something great with the world. I know that it's interesting too, because we talked about a lot of things before this, but the number one thing I was talking about was like, you're not for everybody. So we talked about, these haters and this and that. And one day, this was ironic, in the end of that last year, I decided that, I was going to do something pretty authentic. And it was a big leap of faith for me. And my sister hated it and kind of denounced me. And I was like,
Wow.
because kids see things differently when they're growing up, right? And so there is that perception all the time. But I was like, anyway, and she actually made me mad enough that I went out and got some more jewelry from my company. So sometimes those haters make you fuel a little bit.
And you get the jewelry by earning, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So it was like, oh, okay, well, let me just prove to you know what I mean? I was like, oh, no, you didn't, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think sometimes it's okay to use that as fuel. It's not a great way to like live your life like that, right?
Probably not.
In small increments to get yourself ahead. What is it, your kids that have motivated you to do this? What's your biggest why, other than just feeling stuck and wanting to break free? What was your biggest why? As we talk about, what is your why? Why are you doing this?
That's a good question. I mostly think about how I wanted to feel, but when you just said my kids were definitely a driving force. There's something unique about raising girls, and I wanted to raise really strong, independent girls. And I will say they are, and they are amazing. And it's funny, just the other day, my 17-year-old and I were talking about, so when my oldest was a toddler, I don't know what other way to describe it except very willful. She was as a toddler, and we butted heads like, oh, my husband used to just shake his head and say to me, oh God, the teenage years, I am dreading the teen years. Cause there's that stereotypical, headbutt with moms and teenage girls. And we did not have that. I feel really lucky that we didn't, except it wasn't luck. And so my 17-year-old the other day said to me, I think the reason we didn't have that kind of teen years is because you changed. And that moment, Kai, was like, half of me was super proud of what I have done, and half of me was super ashamed that I was in such a state that my then elementary school kids either could see it at the time or experienced it enough to know how different I am now. So they were a driving force because I wanted to be an example for them. I did not want to be the person who was always stressing about how I showed up and did I do this right and shouldn't I? And so they were a driving force. And honestly, part of how I got into this was I started looking at girls and teenagers and bullying and how to prevent that. And I did a volunteer position. I haven't thought about this in a while. I did a volunteer position with a group called Girls for a Change, where I got trained. This is well before I went into coaching. I got trained in coach techniques and then worked with high school girls on social justice projects. And that was sort of dipping my toe in the beginning. So thank you for the question, because I hadn't thought about it fully before, but my girls were a big why. And then frankly, I just wanted to feel better. I just wanted some relief.
I love that. I love that. And then if you were to say, I know you did a lot of work on yourself and you hired a coach and you did a lot of other things. Was it reading books? Was it attending seminars? Was there any one particular personal, professional development? Maybe it was like a conference you went to that just really all of a sudden clicked for you. Did you have a moment or a book or something on your journey where you're just like, okay, I'm centered, I'm grounded, I got this? Was there anything like that for you?
There wasn't one moment like that in particular. And by the way, I just really want to be clear, that work continues today. That work is going to continue for the rest of my life. And I'm so good with that. And I don't say that to be defeatist. I really want people to get that like, we are really, really complicated, complex beings. And I'm 50 now, so I've got 5 decades of stuff to untangle and figure out. So let's be clear on that. But the one thing that really kind of turned the journey for me and made me start was I watched Brene Brown's TED Talk. And I am telling you guys, like, I had never heard, my dad was an alcoholic, so there was a lot of shame in our family, but I didn't know that. I didn't know I was carrying shame. It just was how we were raised. And so when I listened to Brene Brown talk and she started talking about shame, it was the first time I'd ever felt like, oh my God, somebody gets me. And I did, by the way, I did therapy before I went into coaching. So I just want to say, like, this has been a process. And I used to always ask the therapist, what do normal people do? And she would just like, there's nothing like that, Jen. And so when I heard Brene talking to me, it was that moment of like, oh my God, I'm not the only one that feels like that. And so Brene Brown has been a huge influence in my life, in my career. And then from there, it was just various other pieces. But I'd say, hands down, Brene was the original catalyst for me, and she continues to influence me immensely. I don't know if you guys have listened to her podcast, Unlocking Us. Amazing. So if people aren't familiar, Brene, B like boy, R-E-N-E, Brene Brown, Google her, go check her out immediately. She's phenomenal.
Well, and that makes sense because she's the queen of vulnerability, authenticity, and that makes sense that that is in your practice as well. So I love her too. She's amazing. Dare Greatly and all of her books and things. And so, yeah, definitely plug into that. She's amazing. We only have a couple minutes remaining, and I know, you've put together some tools and some things, and you're a giver. So I like that too. It's not about, just, hire me, I want to make money. It's like you're really into, of course, developing a relationship through giving. And I know you have some tools and some ways that people can engage with you. What are those, and how, if people want to continue the conversation and, find out if coaching's right for them, if you're right for them, what does that look like?
Yeah, thanks, Kai. Well, I just would invite, first of all, for anyone to come and follow me on social media, Jennifer Sherwood Coaching, pretty easy, Facebook and Instagram. You can find me there. My website, jennifersherwood.com, also fairly easy. It's so nice, by the way. My maiden name was like not pronounceable to strangers. So to have a name like Sherwood is so easy. But as far as what I'm offering right now, I do like to give. And frankly, I don't want any, I can't imagine anybody watching me on this with you and then saying, or maybe, but just like, okay, yes, I'm in, I want to coach with you. Like, I think it's important for people to get to know anybody that they're going to hire in this capacity. And so one of the ways I do that is to just give stuff away, give you some easy way into some relief, some cost-free too, like just some free options. But I just created this series called 3 Steps from Overwhelm to Ease, because the women I tend to attract are really, really overwhelmed, and they just don't have the time for stuff. And I want to help them get some relief from that. So this program is super simple, just 3 steps. And I did them in 3 fairly quick videos, because what I want to give you is just bite size. I've definitely learned over the years that small, consistent steps are way more effective than trying to fix everything all at once, or do everything all at once. There's nothing to fix. So 3 simple steps from overwhelm to ease. It's my gift to you. You can go to my website, jennifersherwood.com/ease, EASE. It's super simple. You can consume the entire thing in less than 20 minutes.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, I just want to thank you so much for your time. It seems like it went really fast.
It did.
Well, I'm like, oh my gosh. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Totally my pleasure, Kai. Thanks for the opportunity. It was really fun.
It was really fun. So, hey, everybody. Again, this is Kai on the Fly. We meet here Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific. And of course, it's also on the YouTube channel. But you're welcome to, forward it, chat, reach out to Jennifer Sherwood. But we thank you so much. And we're going to see you next week for another incredible, powerful interview. And so thanks again, everybody. Take care. Take charge. We'll see you over the top. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Kai.
Thank you.